What's up, everybody? How you doing? Waiting for your answer. Okay. Well, I've been doing good. What are some of the things? What have I been up to? That's always an interesting question, right? When somebody asks you, I feel like that is nobody ever answers that question good, right? Hey, what's up? Nothing, man. Just chilling. What about you? Same thing, same old, right? I could complain, but who cares? Who would listen, right? That's it. Well, that's what we all say all the time. It's so funny. I'm trying to think, man. I'm trying to think of like a time where I did not answer somebody like that. Hey, what's up? How you doing? I'm good, man. How about you? I'm good too. There's never like why I feel like. How about this? The next time somebody asks you what's up, you just say literally what you're going through, right at that moment, whatever that is. So if somebody's like, "Hey, what's up?" To be honest with you, I was just thinking about how many birds it would take to lift me off of my feet and fly me like some kind of weird but very erotic birdman. And then see if listen, that I feel like that would spark a good conversation with somebody, in all quite honesty. And that goes to say that this all just goes to tell you that I do not know how to have basic conversations with people out here in the world. That's really what it comes down to. But since you've asked, I've been good, everybody. Another week down, and another Millennial Rolodex episode. What did I do today? Actually, I have a costume party on Saturday, so spoiler alert, if you listen to this and you're gonna see me, I'm gonna be the dude from The Big Lebowski, and it's not that hard of a outfit to put together. But first of all, he is. I would say if you get these questions like who would be a character in a movie or show that you feel most relates to you or you feel seen by, it would definitely be the dude from The Big Lebowski. So I have the sweater that he wears, his cult sweater, his known sweater that he wears in the movie, and I have an undershirt that looks like the undershirt, and he just kind of wears like pajama pants in it, right? If you haven't seen the movie, it's a cult classic. I don't know. I've told like 10 people who I'm gonna be so far, and none of them knew the dude from The Big Lebowski, which kind of makes me feel a little unseen, honestly, a little bad for humanity. And just like that's really what does it for me. Whatever's going on in the news, I don't really know, I'm not really following, but people don't know that The Big Lebowski and the dude character from The Big Lebowski, that makes me fear for humanity, to be honest with you. So yeah, so I have pajama pants, but I was like, you know what? Let me try to get these legit pajama pants that he wears, because there's like a legit pants that he wears in it. So it's like kind of a costume people put together, if you know kind of thing. And I look online and it says that they have them at Walmart. So guess what? I hate Walmart. I hate going to Walmart. If I don't know, it feels like everything that every other country, or even us in our country, make fun of ourselves about, America, that's what I feel like every Walmart is. It really is. It's the culmination of just the worst trash Americans. And that's fine. Listen, that's a part of us. I love America. And we are trash sometimes. And that is where all the trash goes, to buy very cheap items of all kind. Anything you want, you could get at Walmart. But I hate going there. I much prefer Target, even though I really don't go to Target. But Target is way more bourgeois, I guess you would say, to quote the French who love us also. And I just like it there better. It feels a little bit more put together for me, even though I am trash also. But so I hate going to Walmart, but it says, they says they have the pajama pants, those like pants that he wears at Walmart, right? So I'm like, you know what? I could just wear regular pajama pants, but let me do it right. Let me do something right once in a while, because I half-ass everything in my life, as you're going to get to know by listening to this. So I was like, you know what? Let me go to Walmart, look all around Walmart, get the itchies, because whatever the itchies mean to you, it kind of is like the inside of your brain is tickling you and you can't do anything about it. So I'm walking around in there, mayhem, chaos, and can't find the pants, can't find the pajamas, look all around, don't ask nobody, don't really want to talk to anybody, and just walk around the whole store and leave. And that was my outing at Walmart today that I really didn't want to go to there. And I went there because it said that they had the pants there. And that really drives me up a wall, to be honest with you, when the website says they have them and then you go there and they're not there. Now, that being said, I could have asked somebody and that person may or may not have had them or helped me. But I really doubt it, because every time you go someplace, in what I've noticed, do you have these? If they're not out, then we don't have them. And or they say, yeah, let me go check for you, and then they go in the back. They stand there for 3 minutes. They flirt with fucking Gregory or whatever, and then they come back out and they say, yeah, we don't have them. Sorry, you beat. So that was that. Then I went to another store. They didn't have them either, and then I came home. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it to bore you guys. So that's how we're gonna start this episode. Telling you I went to go get my Big Lebowski pajama pants, and I didn't find them. So that's the first part. This is the rambling of a psycho, is what it would be. The next part is I was listening to this segment. I guess we could break things up in segments. For the show, I wanted to kind of bring you, like, I know I say this a lot if you talk to me, and kind of my philosophy is like, oh, don't go online, stay off of your phone, do this and do that and do this. But unfortunately, none of us could do that, right? So what do we do? How can we be cognizant of it? Or how can I be cognizant of it? This is kind of my ramblings right here. And so I just say, you know what, whatever I feel, whatever I'm interested in, I fill my time with. So I'm just going to share, some of the things, some of my likes and dislikes, or some of the things that I just fill my life with throughout the week. And yeah, so there's this podcast called, he's a guy, I think he's from Pennsylvania, one of New York, well, I'm a New Yorker, so I feel like a camaraderie with Pennsylvania and Boston. And Connecticut too. Connecticut pretty much is New York, honestly, at this point. But I feel camaraderie with these other cities because they're real cities, and they're not like fake cities like some other cities pretend to be, But they're real cities. They're right next to us. They're our neighbors, and they got that like blue collar, like rough and tumble kind of feel to them. So I feel a little camaraderie with anybody that is like, oh, I'm from Pennsylvania, from Boston, I'm from any kind of these like northeastern cities. So there's this guy, Julian Dorey, and he has a podcast, and I kind of feel for him. So he has a podcast. That's a podcast I'm going to talk about, but it's him, Julian Dorey, and some this other guy named Danny Jones, right? They both have a podcast, and they pretty much are like they're younger versions of how I feel Joe Rogan's podcast. They have very similar themes, they're interested in the same kind of things. They have guests that are very similar to him. Some of them were on Joe Rogan's, they're on their shows, which is, I find that very cool, and I commend them for that, because I mean, to be a smaller show, at least, smaller than his show, which show is not smaller than his show, they're getting great guests, they're having good interviews, and I'm just the reason why I say that their show is similar to his is because it's like Q&A, like questions, guests, and going down rabbit holes, and it's shot in a very similar way, and they have like, there's a producer, it's just like the same kind of format, I guess to say. So, but the reason why I like both of them, I'm a fan of Joe Rogan's podcast. I know, whatever, people controversial, love him, hate him, whatever. He has a good, you can find out a lot of good information. I typically just like to watch his show when there's a guest or something that I'm interested in, and that's when I watch it. So I don't really watch it all the time, but I have to be interested in it. But their show, I think that even though that they're like, I call them, in my own opinion, Joe Rogan light, just because they're younger, not because it's like a worse show. But I think that their show is also really good because it's just their personality. They're completely different people. They have their own personality. So it was really funny because the guy Danny Jones I listened to first. That's how I found this other guy, Julian Dorey. And Danny, I always think like, wow, this guy's really like emulating Joe Rogan. Like he's really following in his footsteps. I'm like, that's so funny. That's so weird. And even so much so that he actually rebranded his show's stuff and changed the name, and then kind of like his what do you call it? Like sticker for the show, his little like his branding for the show, like when you click on the podcast or the show, it's like the picture. It looks very similar with the similar colors and similar what do you call that? Like similar picture of him as Joe Rogan show. And I found that so interesting. I'm like, wow, this guy really is biting off a lot of Joe Rogan. And so I was like, I wonder how that's gonna go. Like there is already a Joe Rogan, but this guy is like really emulating him a lot. And I still like him, and that's not hating. That's not hating on him. I remember thinking like, wow, this is like he's really kind of not copying him, but like really like following into like the steps. And he's his own individual and has a great show himself, and he is a complete person with a different perspective as well. That's I think what makes his show good, and people tune into his show as well. But he then gets on Joe Rogan, and I'm like, oh shit, this is cool, because it's like Joe Rogan, I guess he is I would say he's just a younger, more hungrier Joe Rogan. And how many times can I say that? Joe Rogan this episode. Of a younger version. So it was so cool because Joe Rogan is this guy who is like at the peak. I mean, you don't get any higher than that. If you like him or you don't like him, it doesn't matter. He's at the peak of what he does. And now this guy who's like really like him, but like younger, and you know, on the probably the beginning of his career. And it's funny, it's like to see like, oh, it's kind of like a futuristic, like he's looking at himself or interviewing himself. So that was pretty funny. But anyway, so these two guys, and the other guy is Julian Dorey. Julian Dorey, and he's like, he started after I believe Danny Jones. So he's still coming up. He's actually more, I would say his channel is growing more, like is on the growth trajectory, the infancy trajectory more, even though he's been out for a while. And he's really good too, because he interviews everybody. He has his own perspective. He has his own ideas, you know. And I think that's really important in this world, honestly, to have, you could do a show that's similar, but you're always bringing yourself to it. So people probably get so much hate, like, oh, you're just copying this guy, you're just copying this guy. But I mean, how many ways can you do a show? You know, how many ways can you do something? You're just going to do this. We're all doing the same thing here. We're just all recording into the microphone, whether we're by ourselves and we have a person we're talking with, and we could just bring ourselves and our own perspective to things. So, you know, I think they both do a really good job, at least from my perspective, and it kind of like, I vibe with it. So this guy, Julian Dorey, I was listening to, I think it's his latest podcast, and he was with this guy, Chris Ramsey. And I think Chris Ramsey, I'm not too familiar with him, but I think he's more of like a UFO kind of guy. And he had I believe, I'm going to mess this stuff up, I should do research before the show, but I kind of just write bullet points and then I just go off the dome, as you could tell probably. But so I believe this guy Chris Ramsey has a show called Area 52 on YouTube, which is Area 51 is aliens. I believe Alien 52, I think he just pretty much talks about aliens and deep dives and interviews with people and all that good stuff. So I saw like a clip of him on Julian Dorey show, and I was like, oh, he sounds like they're talking about very interesting things. I'm into alien lore. I think we all are. It's becoming mainstream now, so everybody listens to a little bit of an alien rhetoric out there. Whether you believe, you don't believe, whatever, it's hard to look away from. I personally find these stories fascinating because whether they're real or not, it's just such a fascinating. They're fascinating tales, all of them. And I'm open to hearing, like I always say, I'm open to hearing all different perspectives, all different stories, and everything. So this guy Chris Ramsey, he's on the podcast, and they're talking about aliens and stuff, but he's also talking about his show, right? How he started his show, and there was a certain point where he felt like he was just doing it, kind of like what I said in the previous episode, like just doing it. He felt like he was just doing it, and it was like an obligation to do it. So it wasn't really a passion anymore, you know? And I found that really interesting because like that's something that I, even at this 4th episode, am cognizant of, you know? I don't want things to become not fun, especially when I'm doing things for a reason of fun and creativity and a passion. So I thought that was really interesting, listening to that. And then he kind of broke down. So he got over that, whatever. He had, like, I guess, a soul search thing. It's a really good episode. I recommend it. Again, Julian Dorey with Chris Ramsey. Julian Dorey in general, that podcast is good, but this specific episode, he breaks down why he does why he's doing what he does in kind of 4 parts, and I thought it was really interesting. And it's like sometimes when you're listening to things or you see a video, because we all watch videos all day, every day, when you're watching a video, talking to somebody, reading a book, a essay, whatever, you know, certain things stick with you. And I feel like these 4 things are kind of stuck with me almost instantaneously. I heard it and I was like, oh, this is very interesting, because I'm just going to talk. I just wanted to share them with you and then kind of break it down a little bit why I think it's so interesting. So he said the first reason why he does it, Chris Ramsey talking about why he creates his show, his product, is because it's his creative outlet. First and foremost, he needs to do something creative, and this is his creative outlet. So this is why he does it. His need to do something creative. Obviously, I 100% agree with that. I think that's such a good message to have for people too. Like, do it because it's your creative outlet. It's your passion. You love it. It feels great. You have to let something out creatively, and you do it. That's first and foremost. When you do anything creative, whatever that is, whatever you want to do, it could be anything. It doesn't matter. Like I always say. The next reason, he kind of breaks them down 1, 2. 2 was that to get paid for it and pay his crew, whoever works on the show, to pay them. So he wants to get paid and he wants to pay them, make money, right? Make a living. You know, that's obviously something that you want to do. You want to do your creative thing, but then also the next thing is, oh, you know what? I would love to make a living out of this and get compensated for this creative outlet that I find incredibly enjoyable to do. And I agree with both of those things. And then in doing so for him, because he does a lot of alien shows, probably like Disclosure, probably like trying to get to the bottom of alien stories, theories, see what's real, what's not real. He says the third reason is to answer some questions, to answer some of these questions that he has and maybe other people have. And he's answering these questions like, all right, did, whatever you hear was what were the quote unquote drones in, on the coast over here on Jersey's coast? What were they? I don't know if he did an episode on that. I'm sure he did, but that's a question that people have, right? That's like a thing everybody knows. It was all in the news, everything. What were they? Was it a psyop? Was it a government psyop? Was it real aliens? Was it people playing a trick on everybody? Was it another country spying on us? What was it? Right? So stuff like that. He answers questions like that, and then the last thing is help people. And if answering questions helps people, then that's amazing. And he said people come up to him. And this is kind of where I want to just talk about real quick. Like, maybe not where I differ, but I have a little caveat with what he's saying. So he says people come up to him and say, you really helped me in life, like this, I thought I was crazy, or whatever, like your show has really helped me. And he says he can't really take credit for it because it's not one of even the first three things that he thinks about when he makes the show. And so he's saying like the first three things are get paid, do a creative outlet, answer some questions selfishly, right? And then if it helps you, then that's good too, but I can't really take credit for it. Now, the reason I don't know the guy Chris Ramsey, he seems like a nice guy during the episode, but I don't know him, so I don't know if he is or not. But I would say this: when you're doing something, I think that the helping people, or I would say the helping people, not that that's why you're doing it, to say like, oh, I want to help people, but to give something back positive to the world. Meaning you're doing your passion, you're not screwing anybody over, you're not fucking anybody over, and you're really being a pleasant person in society, and you're being just a noble person, and you're not doing anything really to harm anybody. But if anything, to like share in like this community, that you give to a community that you actually do really care about because you are part of it. You know, I think I would say that you are actually, I think helping people is always on the mind, or doing good for society is always on the mind, because you could make money, or you could do something creatively that is not healthy or not good. You could have just a hate-filled show where you just talk shit about everybody all the time, or you could have you could just do hit pieces all the time, like where you're just saying, oh, this person sucks, this person's great. You could do anything that is not necessarily helpful to humanity, but you don't do that. Now you could say like that just doesn't align with you, but that is ultimately, I would say, if you're a nice person and you're in a community, one of your goals, I think, before you even start it, is to say, is this going to bring something positive to the world? And even if you don't really articulate that to yourself, I think that is, I think anybody who does anything noble, I think that is a part of the reason why they do it. Now, I mean, obviously, first and foremost, like for this show, it's a creative outlet. That's why I do it. And if people like it, that's great. And I would love it, but first and foremost, obviously this is a creative outlet, but if this was a creative outlet, but I had to assault 50 people, so oddest scenario, have to assault 50 people to do a podcast, then I wouldn't do it. Obviously, if it caused harm to others, then I wouldn't do it. So I think that is a big part of it. Because there's so much of this world already where people don't consider how it's going to affect other people. Things are how things affect other people, and sometimes they go on a real gnarly journey. So that was the Julian Dorey podcast, and I recommend it. I listen to it. I follow it on YouTube, so I recommend it. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about was I watched the Tim Dillion show. I love that show. I pretty much watch it every week, so I miss some here and there. But I think Tim Dillion is a great he's a great moderator for the times that we're living in now. We're living in such a weird like unusual times that you need somebody who's like crazy and unusual and has a really satirical, because we are in a satirical time, honestly, I don't really even understand it, that you need somebody like Tim Dillion, a comedian who is unhinged, to deal with this unhinged world in a joking way, but also a serious way and a thoughtful way. And he had Bernie Sanders on his show. And whatever you say about Bernie Sanders, like I said, I'm not a political person. I don't get the Democrat, Republican, independent, whatever. I don't get that stuff. I love to talk about ideas, and I love to talk about the world, and any idea you want to talk about, I'll talk about ideas. But to slander each other because politics, or to slander a political figure or whatever side, I don't get into that, because I don't think that is very stimulating or creative to me. So that's first and foremost. if you have an opinion about somebody, I'll listen to, or you have an opinion about something, I'll listen to it. But I'll love to have a conversation. But to say, oh, can you believe the Democrats? Can you believe the Republicans? Can you believe this and that? I don't really. That doesn't stimulate me, intellectually at least, and spiritually, because I just don't. I think that, like, what exactly are we talking about here? You know, because we're all just people, and we rub elbows with people who have vastly different opinions than us all the time. So I think that I'm pretty positive. And I have a pretty positive outlook on us as people in society, and the fact that we could get along with our different views. So Tim Dillion had Bernie Sanders on. Bernie Sanders was, I from what I see, at least out of he seems like he's, consistent, and he's still a politician. So, you always have to look at a politician with a grain of salt, but he seems pretty, believes what he says, at least is being honest about what he says and what he believes. And, but still being a politician, you kind of get the vibes that, he obviously will stick with his side of things, which I think is, even though he's independent, he leans more with the Democrat, follows more with the Democratic Party. So, but he seems very fair and very level-headed, actually, and so he came out with a book. I think I don't remember the name of it. I forgot. I think it was How to Stop Oligarchy or something like that, which pretty much just means like how to stop like really rich elite people from ruling the U.S., I guess. And I would like to pick that book up and read it, actually, because he's a smart guy, and I would like to just hear his thoughts on it, I guess. Because that's a thought that you could get behind, like how elite people had to stop the regular people from not having any kind of rights or anything, like just we're just kind of cattle, all of us who aren't billionaires, and having billionaires and every other elite politician, everybody just like dictate what we do with our lives. I'm big on just live and let live in any respect, so that sounds like a very interesting concept for me. So he's interviewing Bernie Sanders, and he's asks them, Tim Dillion, the Tim Dillion podcast. Tim Dillon's asking Bernie Sanders all these sort of questions, really articulate questions, really questions about, like, his political party, how did they do this? Like, why did they do this? Why did they do this? How did they get in the situation they are? Because I believe that it's a pretty, I think they lost a lot of power, I guess, in the government, the Democrats. Bernie Sanders sits there and he answers the questions, and he's articulate, and he says what they need to do, what they did do, some of the things they did good, some of the things, and then he holds them accountable for some of the things that they did bad. And, the thing that I wanted to that I got away from that is not political, because we're not talking about politics here, but what I'm trying to say is Tim Dillion, a comedian who's kind of, the reason why I like him and I think he is a voice is of a generation, is because he calls things for how they are. He calls things for how they are. It doesn't matter if they're Democrat, Republican, this or that. This is what I'm saying. You're seeing an idea, you're seeing something unfold, and then you're having an opinion about it that goes with you. That is your opinion. So he's sitting there very articulate, asking questions, saying, oh, the Democrats, I don't like the Republicans doing this. I don't like the Democrats doing this. Very down the middle, which honestly probably infuriates a lot of people, because you could either be one or the other, which that's really not the truth, but that's what people do. Everybody's one or the other, and I think that's why as a society we're getting dumber too, because we're not taking all good thoughts and all bad thoughts and just like trying to just discuss them and really see what is, unpack them, and just really get more like get sharper intellectually by talking to each other. So, but the part about this podcast that was really good was not just Tim Dillon's questions and the ability to sit there and articulate himself and talk to Bernie Sanders and ask him questions, that some of them were really hard. But the reason why he was able to do that is because Bernie Sanders, another person is able to sit there, listen to him, and have and rebuttal himself and have a conversation. Some stuff he doesn't agree with, some stuff he does agree with Tim Dillion, but he sits there, he listens, he lets him talk, and then he responds in a respectful way. And that's what we need. 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, whoever's having a conversation, to sit there, let the other person ask their question, talk. Don't get angry at what the person is saying or what you think they're saying or this or that, but just listening to a question, listening to something and answering it as truthful and honestly as you can, and saying your side of things, and then the other person be respectful to your answer. You don't have to agree with each other, but just be respectful enough to let the person ask and to say your answer, and then be respectful for that person to answer and then ask questions, and then you just respect each other. And we're going 31 minutes here. This is the longest episode so far. So that's really what I have to say. Just listen to each other, exchange ideas, and once again, that is loving and caring. So that's helping people, because now once again, like, I guess this was the thought, help people. This was the overwhelming, overarching, I guess, thought through this whole episode, was to just, when you do things like that, when you put things out there like that, in my opinion, you are helping. You know, we're all helping each other. We're all trying to help each other with ideas, with life, with to just get through this life. Like, why are we here? I don't know. But I believe that we could do it together if we just respect each other and we peacefully exist. And we do that. So, you know, I just am overall positive about it. I'm positive. I see a lot more people talking, a lot of people taking it easy and loving each other, and that's pretty much it. The last thing that I just want to shout out, because this is Millennial Rolodex, I went on a Linkin Park little binge. So I just was looking up videos. So I was watching Linkin Park videos, and Numb, which is one of the best songs. It's just, what's his name? Chester, the singer, R.I.P. His vocals, they're so grungy and like raspy, but he hits these crazy notes. It really reminds me of Kurt Cobain a lot, his voice. And then the guy who raps on it, Mike, the rapper of the group, they're just group. They were so alternative and good. But Numb is a great song, very deep, obviously, and I guess during that time it resonated with a lot of people. You know, that was like, well, I don't even know, like early 2000s, mid 2000s, really resonated with a lot of people. Numb, and in the end, obviously, in the end, it doesn't even matter. I'm keeping that in. Maybe I'll get a record deal. But those 2 songs, man, they both have 2 billion views on YouTube, which I didn't even know things have 2 billion views. I know 1 billion, you're like killing it, but 2 billion, sick. And people are still listening to it, because in the comments, like, they'll pop up, it will be like October 2025, who else is here, you know, that kind of BS. So Linkin Park, for sure, go back and listen to them, because specifically Numb, in the end. And then also was listening to before I even started recording, to get in the zone, Crawling, their song. They just had a great energy, and it was you could tell it resonated with a lot of people in the time. So R.I.P. Chester. I love you guys, and have a great day, night, whenever you listen to this, afternoon, I don't know. Love you.